Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We are taking a look, of course, at Terra Classic, helping understand best practice and big picture. And once again, hope you are having an amazing and fantastic weekend, regardless of the redness that we're seeing here. And not that I'm here to say I told you so, but I kind of have been. There's a lot of bearish qualities that are really just showing that the likelihood of a further breakdown makes more sense than a break to the upside. Okay, so obviously check out yesterday's video if you hadn't already seen that, and the ones preceding as well. Generally speaking, we're not in dire straits by any stretch. We do still have an ascending type of trend that's potentially going to hold, but the descending trend is also very strong. So we want to look at a handful of little things here and take a peek at what might happen next. And if you are new to the channel, just bear in mind I'm not a financial advisor, right? I love teaching people to trade. Truly hope you can learn something here today. If you want to become a better trader, cryptocash.tech is a site. I have trade signals. I have an amazing community and of course a university as well, where I teach you everything that I know. I've been trading for over 17 years. Last but not least, of course, is our Discord here, and I have this kind of pulled up with some of our recent results, and we got some phenomenal traders here. So I'm super happy for them. I mean, geez, Philly's just amazing. Alexandru's just a champ, and Zach's really starting to pull it up here a notch. So keep up the great work, you guys. I'm super proud of all your progress. Like Zach just keeps on keeping on, and that's really, really cool. Anyways, these are all things available to my trading community, and then of course, they also have the opportunity to be able to benefit from a $10,000 prize pool bi-monthly. In other words, every two weeks we have new competitions to allow for you to be able to actually benefit from just being a good trader or just an average trader, because you can benefit from trading volume. There's profit and loss ratios, and these are all just little things you can do to get some extra funds, essentially when you're trading. Okay, so it's kind of cool to be able to have this, and then of course a larger prize pool, 4,000 for 4 members that have over 3,000 in volume. So right now at this point, we've got 1 member that's guaranteed to receive that. But hey, we've only been 3 days in this competition. We got roughly 12 days left. So again, check that out in your own time. Really awesome stuff. Make sure you use my link in the description below. That's the only way you can qualify for my Bitget affiliation that I have with them. And I chose them because they have phenomenal liquidity. Their exchange is just super easy to use. It's quick and easy. Like, it's tremendously better than Bybit and KuCoin. So just recommend you check that out. All right, so here's the thing. With the regular markets, we got to recognize that over the weekend we were down 3% for traditional markets. Bitcoin, in some cases, is broken even. So we got to recognize that, in the sense that Bitcoin is probably going to, I feel like Bitcoin's close to its bottom. All right, we may see a retest at 17,600. But it just feels like the bottom is in for the most part. That's just my speculation based on how much better Bitcoin's behaving above and beyond the regular markets. The reason why they bring that to your attention is because of the fact that we have Terra Classic here doing quite poorly, and a lot of times we can have inverse pairings, but in truth, Terra Classic's just been selling off because it was so overextended, and it's unfortunately one of those manipulated types of coins right now where we're seeing that happen. Okay, so it's not surprising at all to see this continuation of the downside. So just to clarify, the trend line that I kind of brought to our attention yesterday was the simple fact that we were descending very straight and very strong. Every time the price comes up to test that level, it keeps getting rejected. Okay, we also have a larger trend line, of course, that continues, and potentially we might see a bounce today. I'm not saying that's the case, but generally speaking, that could be, it's basically 50-50, right? Both trends are working themselves into a somewhat of a wedge, but the fact of the matter is that it came from below here does imply that there's a chance that we'll break upwards, not downwards. Again, just because it derived from a lower point. Again, that's just a type of pattern that you can see in trading. It's not a guarantee, but I think we're slightly more than likely to see a bounce here from this point. But again, we are underneath the RSI at 50. We have a bearish divergence that continues to grow. And ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, we've lost the 50-day simple moving average, and we're working our way down. So as you can see, whatever trend we had that was positive to the upside is no longer there. So regardless of the fact that we may see a bounce here based on it coming from the downside and essentially continuing higher, this ascending type of wedge pattern doesn't necessarily mean, it doesn't overlook or essentially it's not the best case scenario, because we have so many other compounding factors that are telling us the price should go down. So that's just what I'm looking at here. Ultimately, even though that one thing is positive, we have mostly negative. Okay, again, that hasn't changed from yesterday, and it's just kind of reaffirming itself here in the last 24 hours. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we're probably going to see a retest of the 25.5 to the 26,000 range, which we did. Keep in mind, the more often you retest the level, the more likely it is to break. So we have retested this, obviously the first time, almost a second time, a third, fourth time, and now a fifth time. So how much longer can that support level hold? You got to imagine kicking a door down. The more you kick it, the likely it's going to break. Obviously, there's different types of doors out there, but generally speaking, the concept stays the same, right? The more times you beat something, the more likely it is to break. And that's essentially what's happening. So it does feel like we should see some type of continuation to the downside. All right, so let's look at some other things here, see if there's anything positive, slightly positive here in the fact that we're overextended to the downside here on the RSI. So on the 4 hour, when we see 30 on the RSI, it's typically a bouncing point. In other words, if you look in its past, anytime Terra Classic has come closer to 30, it's had a tendency of recovering. Okay, this one, it came below 30, of course, but then it shot straight up. Granted, that was news of the, what was it, Binance burn. That was like the tax burn news there. So that drove the price up. But the fact of the matter is it holds fairly consistent in the sense that when we see 30 on the RSI, the likelihood of the price coming back up is higher. All right, so there is an overextension there, which is positive. We can also see clear as day that TD sequential is coming to a full extension here. We're at a 9. If you look at its history, almost every single time we see a 9 on TD sequential, the price will recover. Okay, so I would say the likelihood of the price coming up from here is moderately high, but I wouldn't expect it to be fantastically strong, right? Should see a bounce, but how big of a bounce will it be? It'll probably be a bounce to this Fibonacci retracement level of 28.20, basically 28,000. And the reason why I say that is because that'll continue this trend. It'll continue the lower highs. So, again, we got to break above the 28,600, maybe just say 29,000, and close above 29,000, and then we're good to go ahead and break through that resistance. But for now, we got to expect further downside with a very strong potential of a short bounce here. Or when I say short bounce, I'm more so referring to short in duration. We shouldn't experience the price action to come up very hard. But it does definitely look like it wants to turn around. However, we do have bearish divergence on the 4 hour as well. So again, a lot of conflicting information here telling us that it could literally go both ways. So if you're going to do an overextension play, perhaps that might be advantageous to consider long right now, but I would have tight profit targets. If you're going to be shorting, obviously the inverse also applies, where we lose that support level. It could definitely tumble from here, but it doesn't. It feels like it's lost its momentum to the downside, right? Even though it's gaining momentum on larger time frames, this midterm here at 4 hours telling us it wants to continue, to bounce off that because it's had so much continuation to the downside that it's more likely to recover. Okay, so again, overextended, absolutely on the 4 hour. Let's see if the 1 hour tells us the same thing. It kind of looks like it. We see 1, 2, 3 nines in a row. How much lower can you go, right? It's one of those things where you can only bend something until it breaks so many times, and that's essentially where we're at right now. We've had 36 hours of continuation of the downside, at least, if not more, and the price is willing to potentially bounce from here. It just seems like it's likely to do so. Again, don't think it's going to be a strong bounce. I think it'll probably be pretty weak where it comes up here and gets rejected again. Until we get there, of course, we just kind of got to be cautious and careful. So, to my community members trading this one, a long does seem more viable based on, overextension. But everything else is telling us it wants to continue lower too. So are you really willing to take that gamble or that risk? If so, play it tight. That's all I can say, and that's what I recommend. Be safe so you're not sorry later. Last thing we want to look at here is, of course, Ichimoku Cloud. Pretty much screaming at us bearish divergence. We got the lower lead here, of course, working concurrent with a trend line, previous upper lead, as well as a conversion line being below the baseline and the lagging span free and clear. So there's really nothing here that we see that's positive. The cloud is basically saying that you could open a short position and still be okay. All right, so again, not definitive direction in either way, but I do feel like we're going to see a slight recovery followed by a further decrease. That's kind of just what it looks like it wants to do. Unless, of course, traditional markets open up tomorrow strong and we see, the whole entire market recovering. Bitcoin dominance stays low. Altcoins essentially absorb that dominance. Right now, a lot of strong altcoins, XRP included, are getting hit kind of hard based on the fact that Bitcoin is just kind of stuck on stupid. So It's an interesting way that cycle works, but for right now, I would say better safe than sorry to stay on the sidelines. That's just my personal opinion. I don't like to trade coins like this where we're at this interesting point. It's like we could literally go either way. It's almost a flip of a coin, and to me, that's not the proper way to trade. You want to trade with having confidence in knowing that there's a direction, somewhat of a definitive direction. Okay. It's never 100%, but it should likely be 60, 70, 80% probability of in either direction. Right now, we've literally got 50-50 on almost every single time frame. Positive attributes followed by conflicting, non-confirmations, if you will. So a lot of just a lot of garbage here. I don't really like to trade stuff like this. So again, I would just recommend being cautious and careful. Expect it to go down lower, but I would also anticipate a slight increase in the relative near future. Hope that made sense to you. And again, if you want to be part of my trading community, you want to benefit from a nice prize pool bi-weekly through Bitget, no longer use Bybit. I highly recommend that. I have heard some users that are trying to register now having success with a VPN based on like a recent disclaimer. Try not to worry too much about that. I spoke to my Bitget rep. Nothing has changed. They're just kind of prefacing the fact that that could eventually happen. And as with Bybit or KuCoin, there's a handful of others that require KYC in the States or specific countries. So again, not really a big deal in that sense. There's always ways to work around that if you're insisting on using leverage, which again is beneficial in a lot of cases if you use it correctly. We have a really awesome bear market strategy right now with leverage, and it works fantastic. But bottom line, become a community member if you want to become a better trader. You can work with myself and the likes of a lot of other good traders. I look forward to working with you. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much again for your time. We'll see you in the next one.